That's everything. Good to go.
Oh,
All right, we do have a quorum. We're gonna kick this thing off. We're a couple minutes late, but welcome to the December 14th board meeting. I'm gonna do a call to order, then we'll do the pledge of allegiance. So that's right. For the first time ever, I'm gonna do the call to order first and follow the action. Pretty crazy.
that is great.
Okay. Zach Davis, present. Michael Talby,
Present.
Chris Kanzler,
Present.
Kate Johnson,
Present.
Daniel Wang remotely. No, not here yet. Okay. Dr. Quesada. No. Topher. Kristen. Good to see you. Walker McBride is not going to make it tonight. Kevin Phillips. Here. Turner Watts. L. Jonah. Right, let's rise and do the pledge. Chris, please lead us.
Really? Late?
Yeah. That's part of the deal.
And pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna make up some time here. These are a while. Public comments, do we have any speaker slips?
I do not.
Doesn't look like we have anybody in attendance here. Do you have anybody online? Nope. Okay. Board member comments. Anybody like to share anything for the group? No? Okay, we are going to get into it later on. I'll just speed things up. I think hopefully people are seeing that we have started to make some improvements around the facility. Whether it was chopping down the tree that was bringing vermin over into the roof. Not gonna refer to it by its other names. We've also put some tile in down below where we had a carpet that was looking pretty rough. Cleaning has obviously gotten way better. The carpets look much nicer, and then the big drum roll is that we're going to do the long overdue bathroom repairs. We approved that a couple of weeks ago. So that's gonna happen over the holidays. So I think hopefully people are gonna start seeing things start to look a lot nicer around here and start to see an investment in this building, even though we still recognize it's only for the next couple of years. We still want to have pride in where we are, and hope people start to feel that now. The basketball hoops we talked about on the front end, going on a year almost. My goal is to get them up before we hit a year. We did bring in a pro after Devin and I stumbled our way through trying to install them. They are a beast. They're appropriately named. We do have the local Spalding rep who's going to help us get that solved. So between the basketball hoops, the soccer goals, the nets, the bathrooms, the carpets, things are going to start to improve around here. I hope people will feel that.
We also, a lot of the teachers on the second floor were talking about how dirty their windows were, like, like literally on the second floor, so they have all the windows. It's totally different than last year.
Great. Great. Good there. So I think hopefully people will start to feel that sense of pride. And just know we're continuing to listen to the community and respond where we can and try to make positive incremental changes. And I hope everybody's feeling it. All right, we're going to move into reports and presentations. Student reports. Al, Jonah, what do you guys got for us?
Not much today, after Thanksgiving break and stuff, it's really just like positive stuff. Kids are excited about the bathrooms, excited for the break.
We like that.
Yeah, goals are a big hit, everything's going kind of smoothly among us.
Had a lot less injuries with wood chips, so that's been a positive. Yeah, I think it's been a pretty good month.
Not much going on.
Okay.
We reduced the amount of wood chips around the net.
That's what's happening.
It's safety first.
What types of wood chip injuries?
Lots,
It's high.
splinters, like,
You were getting, you and I spend a lot of time.
No, I know.
Putting the, when they're out there, then people run and they slide on them, they slip, they fall.
That's, why did you guys bring this up?
They did.
Student report.
Principal advisory, we talked
Okay,
about
all
it,
right.
we rectified the situation,
Good.
best we could, we did Band-Aid that one, we reduced the amount of it. The less filter and.
Anytime injuries are down, that's a good time. Okay, everybody's looking forward to the break?
Yes, we're excited. Our class about tomorrow, not tomorrow, Friday, being a half day, so a lot of kids are really recommending half days, if dress days.
Ask for it, you got it.
Anybody have any other questions? No? All right, short and sweet, to keep things moving. Josh, financial report.
Yes. So, in the agenda, the first two are mine, you see budget update and first interim report. I guess you have an audit presentation by David, but. Oh, you're David. Yeah. So I guess he'll take that section. But as far as my, portion goes, you'll also see at the very end, there are, two action items, C and D, that you'll be approving the things that I'm about to present on. So any questions after I give this presentation, you can ask me, but just keep in mind, come the end where you're approving things, you're approving the two revised budget and the first interim report that I'm about to go over. So the document that I'm going to show you, right, if you guys have this one, this is what I'm going to go over. May not, it's not, I don't know if it's in that big packet. Oh, you got, this should be, oh, it is, okay. So the first part of what we're going over is approval of a new budget. Now, the board doesn't have to approve the budget, but it'd be recommended, given we meet with the board members and we meet with the school and we get something together and want to use this budget as our new steering device. So that's one thing that you'll be doing. Like I said, the second thing is the first interim. That's the July through October financial reports that are going to the district. It's a compliance piece. You'll have to approve it regardless. It essentially just acknowledges that the board saw the interim and thus we're going to send it off to the school district. So this sheet right here, this is the summary of it all. In the same packet, you're going to see something like that. That is the template that's getting sent to the district, but it's not going to be what I talk about because it's just not the most reader friendly. This is going to be what I'm talking about today. So you guys have, all right, so no, that was a lot. If it was confusing, feel free to stop me and ask a question, but these are the main points. So this first column, that's the actuals, that's the interim that's getting sent to the district. Main point to know, it's from July through October 31st, 2022. Through that period, the school was actually running with a surplus of $152,998,000. But though that sounds good, the budget is the bigger deal. So if you look, the second column, 2022-23 preliminary budget, that's the budget we started this fiscal year with, going back to June. As if you look down, the deficit of what we board approved in June was a deficit of $183,087. The column to the right is that 2022-23 reforecast. That's the new proposed budget to replace the preliminary budget. So main things, and I'm sorry. And then so the furthest column, the variance, that's the difference between preliminary and reforecast. The main things that I want to highlight for you is if you look at the first and second line, total enrollment and ADA, so you're funded completely off ADA. Enrollment's great, but you're funded off your ADA at the end of the year. You'll see that from the preliminary budget, we budgeted an ADA of 253 with a 266 enrollment. Most recently, the school is trending at a 234 enrollment and thus our projection is a 223 ADA. So that's like 32 kids. We're short from when we made this 6 months ago. So that's naturally going to significantly hurt. And that's reflected in the state LCFF revenue, the negative $110,000 in variance there. The things that have helped, if you can look at that local revenue column, you're going to see a plus 340. It's all the grants school's been working on, so that's really offset and actually favorably benefited the school a lot.
So those are the big movers in revenues. The whole bottom section is expenses, but I'll just cut straight to the chase. So with the revenue adjustments, additional expenses, the new surplus deficit that we are budgeting for the school's new proposed budget would be a deficit of 116,585. So we want to go budget wise, asking the board to approve a budget that once said a deficit of 183,000 to move to the budget with a deficit of 116,000. Unfortunately, I'm looking at this printout. This printout.
Josh, the one that we're using shows 76.
Oh, you got the wrong one.
Yeah, the other one.
We got old one. You want me to hand you guys all the new ones?
Yeah, probably. While you're hanging that out, and Devin, this may be some questions for you, but Josh. Chris, I'm not sure. One of the things I saw is that there's a training and development expense. Variance of 25 grand. Is that offset by the grants?
Yes.
Yes, okay, with better revenue. There's a $10,000 variation on student transportation. Do we know what that's about?
Does it cost more or less? I'm sorry.
10 grand more. We budgeted 28, we went to 38. You know,
So-
driver there.
My assumption would be that's off obfuscate jump. Just we've got a couple kids that we were working with obfuscate jump.
Right.
And I know that at one point we talked, I want to say 2 months ago, and we were already high on it versus what we had planned. But we weren't doing anything outside of what, like, the IEPs.
We had to go reforecast basically off of actual, what we're
Yep.
actually seeing.
Yep.
This is not additional stuff. We didn't handle.
No, there hasn't been anything additional that has been car rides.
And then there's the field trips. We cut the budget out and then now suddenly we're putting it back. There's a $23,000 variance there.
Is this what you and I shifted?
Yes,
Yeah, so one of the things that, we've gotten a lot from the community is bringing back the middle school field trips. And so when we looked at what we had budgeted for, we didn't really budget it the way that to accommodate those trips being, however, we had some areas that we hadn't even touched some money in, what was that?
Like non-capitalized equipment.
Non-capitalized equipment, we had like $40,000 and we hadn't spent any of it. So he and I shifted it in there to help support the field trips because I haven't been spending any of that money thus far. And so we kind of leveled that back out. Josh and I spent probably 2 hours digging in prior to the meeting at different times and just looking at different ways we could pull to kind of aid in how we've been purchasing and what we've been working with.
And then, because I'm not familiar with the term OASDI,
Oh, that's social, so that's Medicare, social
that's
security.
Medicare Secretary. Okay, cool, thank you.
Do we know why the state revenue is going down?
That's the ADA.
Yeah. Just to. And this is an unfortunate one, right, because you're losing 110. The state actually had a large COLA this year, so usually you would see a big jump there, but because you're losing, so you lost so many students, it had a net negative effect.
And is the difference in salary just a result of decisions that we made about?
Yes. There was one, and just to be clear too, there was a personnel when we made the budget a person, that when we made the budget 6 months ago with the previous director, unfortunately, we missed a person. So we missed person, so it looks like, oh, did you add this much in salaries? Well, we actually missed one.
Which I believe was the STEM teacher, if I remember correctly.
That sounds right, yeah. So there was
So it was like a position that has been here for years. It wasn't like a position that we even had. Other questions?
The rest of it, we approve that later, you need approval for us.
yeah, so at the end, like I mentioned, there's two things. There's the approval, you're approving the revised budget, so what you're doing is forget about the preliminary budget, let's run with the new budget, that's what the first thing you're approving is, but you don't have to approve it if you don't want to. But I guess you probably should, it's more accurate. So, well, I'm not telling you to do anything, but and then the last one is approval of first interim report. If you don't approve the budget, that's fine, just make sure you approve the first interim, because that regardless is going to the school district and they want to know that the board actually saw something.
Any other questions?
All right,
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, John. Good night.
I gotta wait, I have to be back. But that was also the first interim report.
Yes.
Well, okay, so David, you are gonna take the floor for our audit presentation? Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dave. David, they're school board members too.
All right, so tonight I'll be presenting the audit report for fiscal year, June 30th, 2022. I'd like to start by, you open up the first page. There is a table of contents section that goes over all the different elements of the report. Keep in mind that really the only thing that I own in this report is the opinion. Everything else is a culmination of information that I collected from management and compiled into this report. So a big thank you to Mr. Phillips, Mr. Dio, Ms. Hirsch, and then even one of the board members, Mr. Davis, I interviewed. So appreciate staff and board that helped me to create this report and ultimately come up with an opinion. So there's 3 basic opinion letters in the report that goes to the oversight agencies. The first one is on page 1. It's the independent auditor's report. Basically, I'm expressing an opinion in this report whether the financial statements are fairly stated, and I'm providing reasonable assurance to the users of the financial statements. What any organization is going to want is an unmodified opinion, and I felt I could support that. And so I've expressed an unmodified opinion on the financial statements that I feel they're fairly stated. So that's the first report there. And then on page 3, you have what's called the statement of financial position. It's basically your balance sheet, and it shows what your assets are. How much cash did you have at June 30th? It's a snapshot financially of your financial position at June 30th, 2022. And so on there, it has how much cash you had, how much your accounts receivable was, prepaid expenses, was there any insurance that you had paid for, but yet it hadn't expensed yet, is a way to describe it. The deposits, that's like the deposit you have on building. These are all assets that we haven't recognized as an expense yet. But we put out the cash, so they're an asset until we expense it. And then liabilities, and then the bottom net assets, that's your equity. So that's the balance. That's basically a balance sheet, or it's called statement of financial position for nonprofit entity. Statement of activities is the next page on page 4. This just shows your revenues and expenses. Bottom line is you ended the year with an equity position of 1.2 million. There was a deficit of 23,267. But you're still in a good financial position in terms of your equity position here. The next page just goes over your program services and your management services. Most of the expenses are teacher salaries. You do have books and supplies, insurance, facilities, that kind of thing. But anyways, it's kind of broken out into what's program and then what's management. And as you can see, 316,000 management services as opposed to 2.5 million. So most of your services are your program, you know, the education of your students. And then, but there are supporting expenses as well in management. Next page is the cashment of cash flows from operating activities. It just shows your beginning cash and what you ended the year at in cash, and just kind of reconciles that. And then these are the notes to the financial statements. It just has a lot of information that supports the financial statements and where those numbers come from. And so that goes all the way until, let's see, then page 17, that's just your organization, your LEA organizational structure. Next page is your average daily attendance. Second period report is what your funding is based on. And you had an AD of 246.84, and then I heard we've had somewhat of a drop. What was that 88 for first in? Oh,
He bounces after his report.
oh, okay. So anyways, 246.84. Off the top of my head, I think he said 223.
231.
31. So a little bit of a drop from what was anticipated. It doesn't sound like it's as big of a drop as I initially. It was a drop from the adopted budget to the first interim, but from last year to this year, I don't know. It's as big of a drop as 30. So
We're working to get it back.
yeah. And then on page 22, this is a report on internal control. Now, I'm not expressing an opinion on your internal control. What I'm doing is I'm issuing a report to the board that in my audit, I did nothing. I basically looked at your internal controls, I reviewed them. I analyzed them so that I could plan the scope of my audit procedures. Nothing came to my attention in the audit that would suggest that you have any material weaknesses or that you have any other problems in your internal controls. There's adequate like segregation of duties, meaning that there's checks and balances in place to ensure that fraud and errors don't go undetected. There's a very low risk because your internal controls are set up good. You have good policies and procedures, and they're being followed from what I can see in the audit. Because of that, the risk of errors of fraud going undetected is low. And so that's basically what I'm reporting here. And if I had seen any material weaknesses and that risk was higher, I'd have to report that in this report on internal controls. So I didn't see any problems in internal control. And then on page 24, there is a report on state compliance. So obviously, when you're a nonprofit subject to Financial Accounting Standards Board, you do receive government funds. And so you receive state funds. The bulk of your money is from the state. You receive very little from the feds. If you're a Title I school, then it would be a higher amount, but even then, most of your money is coming from the state. It's coming from property taxes. It's coming from ultimately probably 90% of your revenue or more is coming from the state. And so anyways, I had to review the instructional minutes, making sure that you're offering on an annual basis enough instructional minutes. I had to look at the average daily attendance and look at how you're doing your attendance. And there's controls in place to ensure that if a student shows up tardy, that he's not marked absent. Or if a parent has an absent note, that attendance got reported as absent. Ultimately, it's up to the teacher to determine whether a student is present or not, but there has to be these checks and balances to ensure that if there was an error in the teacher's reporting, that there's controls in place to ensure that the student gets marked accordingly to whether they were absent or not. Because most of your funding is based on And so anyways, in the state compliance report, I put, in my opinion, Old Town Academy complied in all material respects with the types of compliance requirements referred to above that are applicable to state programs noted in the following table. And then there's a table and it goes over the procedures to perform. Some of them were not applicable, and then some of them, the answer was yes. And so anyways, and then that's basically the main opinions. There were no findings. And I didn't make any audit adjustments. I felt that the books had been prepared correctly. The year and close had been done correctly, and that I didn't need to propose any audit adjustments so that the financial statements would be fairly stated. I didn't need to do that. I felt they were fairly stated in the test work that I performed. So that's basically my presentation of the audit report. You know, it's not like a PowerPoint or anything. It's open to discussion. So anybody have any questions about the report? Okay.
It's really happy.
So yeah, it's truly it's been a pleasure to work with you. We have a 3-year contract, so I look forward to hopefully coming back in the springtime, and we'll begin testing for this fiscal year. This is all about last fiscal year. And so that now we'll be beginning the process for next year in the springtime. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, teacher liaison report. I know Turner is out. We have proxies.
He didn't send anything.
Office administrators report. It looks like Natalie is also out.
It is, she did give me some stuff though.
Okay, yeah.
To
Particularly the enrollment.
talk through,
The budget.
Yeah, so there's really 2 things that she brought. So enrollment dates as of our enrollment numbers are as of today are as follows. TK 5 kids, kindergarten 20 kids, first grade 26, second grade 29, third grade 26, fourth grade 24, fifth grade 23, sixth grade 28, seventh grade 24, and eighth grade 26. That's a total of 231. We currently have 8 students going through registration. They are in kindergarten, 2 in first, 1 in third, 2 in sixth, and 2 in seventh, and they are not included in the numbers above.
Can you do that one more time?
Yeah, so there are 8 possible students going through registration right now, 1 in kindergarten, 2 in first grade, 1 in third grade, 2 in sixth grade, and 2 in seventh grade.
Thank you.
And they aren't included in the 231. Currently on our wait list, we have
not included in 231.
the ones that are currently in registration are not in the 231.
Okay, so that would go from 231 to 239.
It, in a perfect world, yes. Wait lists, we have 5 in TK. We have 2 in 5th grade, 7 in 6th grade, and 7 in 7th grade. No other grade has a wait list. So enrollment questions, there's something else that I'm supposed to report on really quickly, so that would be like a different conversation.
Those waitlist people in there since.
Yeah, we can chat about that later. That is something that we had talked about, and we just stayed pat where we were, so maybe we shifted that at this point. We can have that discussion.
No, you're not the right person, but historically, we've seen, obviously, December and October are different than January, because that's really a transition point. Is there ever typically a bump?
So yeah, Natalie's probably the best person for that, but in my experience, you usually tick up somewhere between, I want to say, 4 to 10 kids in January, because that's a period of time when people are looking during that break. But because of that, you also tend to have the same happen and go out, so you equal out somewhere, maybe plus a couple or minus a couple, depending on what the scenario would like. So it usually evens itself out.
Not when they see our bathrooms and basketball hoops.
So
Soccer nets.
we'll get those pictures. We'll get those pictures up on the website real quick.
That's what makes a difference.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Any questions on enrollment, wait lists? Okay, other part of the report was there have been some Brown Act updates. And Natalie wanted to push those forward. I'm not really sure how much I'm supposed to read of this, but there have been a few changes that the board needs to be aware of, particularly for meetings. Under the Assembly Bill AB 2449 signed into law in September and going into effect January 1st, 2023, a governing body may hold a hybrid, which is partial remote, partial in-person meeting without having to comply to certain Brown Act procedural requirements. In the following limited circumstances. One or more members of the legislative body, but less than a quorum, have just cause for not attending the meeting. That is childcare, family caregiving needs, contagious illness, physical or mental disability need, or travel while under official public business. Or one or more members of the legislative body experience an emergency circumstance. Each member is limited to a certain number of remote meetings per year, and specific protocols must be followed at the hybrid meeting in order for this exception to be used under one or more board members. Basically, you can't do this more than twice. That's like the sum.
In a school year?
Yeah, in this,
It has to be under 20% of the meeting.
Yeah,
It was 20% and not more than 3 in a row, but it's
Two in a row.
or 2 in a row, excuse me. And since we don't have, we have like 11 meetings a year.
Yeah.
Meetings a year, right?
So-
So it's 2.
so it's 2 and you can't miss more than that for us. So I just cut it off at that.
Hold on, just.
And it's not miss, it's be remote.
Correct,
Correct.
sorry, correct. Be
Just
remote.
so I can- go. Say Chris, so I pick on Chris today, but if Chris misses 2 meetings or does them remotely, that's the cap, he can't do.
He
3
can't do any more
Correct.
the whole year. He can't come in and have a remote meeting. Starting January 1st, that's my interpretation of what it says. With those, you've got.
There's
some
an
different-
overlap because of the state of emergency overlap that still allows us to have hybrid meetings through January, but that expires the 23rd of February. So unless the governor was to extend that state of emergency, which is overarching over
Correct.
this, that, yes.
So knowing that you don't, this one have all the answers, does that mean then that Chris, if he has to travel again, just doesn't get to be part of that meeting, and then he can pick it back up once he's back in person?
Correct. He would just be absent from that. Now, it
But I think
does,
that we can start that from the January meeting, so.
Correct.
Having had missed
It does.
fall.
nothing
that-
starts until January.
But start.
Um,
And honestly, I think like you were talking about.
It's February.
Really
that it
February.
starts.
So then we have February through June, because we don't meet in July anyway. So-
Fiscal year.
We're good. We reset, and then it'll really be about next school.
it's really about next
I don't
year.
know that it
Is it
resets.
calendar year or is it school year?
I don't know that it resets per calendar.
I'll have to look again.
I think it's calendar.
My understanding is school year, so I apologize for that.
Terms. Sort of a new slate of folks.
That's actually why I thought it started school years.
I do too.
The problem
terms
is
start
that the
there.
Brown Act doesn't actually break it down to like school versus.
Right, because it's not
legislative
school.
body, so it's
Right.
not necessarily the same for us. An interpretation of that would be different according to us versus a different
But it
legislative
could
body.
very well be calendar year, at which point it probably is a good thing for us.
Correct.
I think the other key thing there is we can't do an all remote
Correct.
meeting, which was a nice.
You can't, there
There
were,
are
Yeah.
options for you, but they're very, very
They're
limited.
limited. It's easier to go on the we can't do it and then find the reason we can the 1 or 2 times that we fit that scenario.
Correct.
Everybody good? 'Cause I got
That
some
was
more, I guess.
2349, is that the number for the?
24.
2449.
So this is a little bit of, I think Natalie put a little bit of her interpretation, her understanding as well in here. So AB 2449 has thrown a wrench into and around remote meetings under the Brown Act, and there are a variety of existing rules for governing boards to consider when continuing remote meetings. This should be very carefully reviewed, as I anticipate a step up in auditing entities to pay special attention to these new laws. For example, both ABA 249 and existing law AB 361 broadly allow remote meetings when there is a declared state of emergency. However, Governor Newsom has announced the COVID-19 state of emergency will end February 28, 23. My understanding is that once that emergency order is ended, AB 361 is no longer in effect. There are a few legal firms who agree on this as well. Legal update memo handout, which you guys should have from School and College Legal Services of California, is helpful in depicting the various Brown Act remote meeting requirements in effect as of January 1st, 2023. On a side note, we have made the public speaker form available online. Anyone wishing to fill out can do so via Google form on our website. We will be auto notified when someone fills it out and can keep a running spreadsheet with information collected for our records.
There is no, at least, I don't think any of us have anything about the summary.
Yeah,
That,
it's probably up here then.
okay.
Because she printed it. It's probably this one. Thanks. I thought it got in there, so that was a late addition, but it did get in there. And then, in addition,
With the online form too, just so we have that read into the record as well.
Yeah.
There is an option, it says on the online form, to notify us if you will not be physically present to comment on the board, and then an option would be based to you. Of however we decide to do that.
So I love things. Very excited. Do you have one?
that is the end of the report that I was to read. Wow, I can't believe I read it all. I'm shocked. Read that, right?
Hey, Chris, it's the calendar here. Is it the calendar here? Yeah. No, it's weird. Thank you.
I have that.
Okay, thank you, Natalie by Evan. Anything else?
No, that's what she sent. If you guys do have more questions about the ADA 2449 and AD 361, we are, I mean, it's a pretty regular conversation in the office trying to like look for new updates and new judgments and what lawyers are saying about it so that we can make sure that we're in compliance.
All right, to keep things rolling. IT report, Christian.
Just one thing, I was about the speaker notes, I was gonna mention that as well, that it's under the main website. In the government section, all the way, if you click on it, scroll down, it's right there, you click on it, and it redirects you to the speaker form. That's basically it.
So if somebody's trying to attend remotely, they would have to navigate through the website down to that. Is there a way when? And I apologize for not knowing all the ins and outs. When we are sending the link to the community, is it possible to just do sort of a little button in the email, or how does that get distributed to folks right now?
So there's a difference between public comment and what we're broadcasting. So there's three ways to view the meeting, which are all in accordance, right? So you can be physically present, you can watch online without commenting, which is our YouTube broadcast. And then if you were to want to comment remotely, you would notify us and you'd be provided with like the Zoom link from this.
So you,
Could present in person, but via digital.
the Zoom, okay, this is gonna sound like my mom programming a VCR. The Zoom talks to YouTube. How are they making their comment? Like,
It
how
would
does
be the
that?
same as the,
You have to be dialed into the Zoom directly.
Okay, so it'd just be like another person over there, and then you can watch it.
Yep.
Got it.
And hear them.
Right, thank you.
And YouTube records it,
So
streams it live.
if they don't figure it out how to do it from the website, they would have to email separately and say, hey, I can't attend in person. I'd love to make a comment. How do I do that?
there's a spot, so that's the digital on the website, is it's a Google form. And it shoots a speaker slip to me, Natalie, and I think you too. And it says, I won't be able to attend, physically in person. I need a Zoom link, and then we would know how to.
But obviously, there's clear emphasis on in-person meetings.
Technically, the only reason we would have to provide a Zoom link is if we have a member on Zoom link as well. Otherwise, if we're having a full in-person meeting, then the public speaker would have to be present to.
I didn't understand that.
Public
Kate.
speaking. Yeah.
But should we, so you said where it is,
But
on the
we're
web,
giving the option to try to.
For sure.
you said where it was on the website, I just quickly navigated there. We probably should add it to the agendas that are published as well.
It will be.
Good.
Now we will add it next time.
Awesome.
Thanks, Kate.
Anything else, Christian?
No, that's it.
Walker, am I? Real estate advisory panel update. Walker McBride.
Wait, was that Christian IT report? I'm sorry.
was.
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure.
And can I ask a quick question on the IT report? I think we had talked about robotics last time, or everything is up and running as it's supposed to be now, and
Yeah,
all the classes are full steam ahead.
everything right now, first grade, kinder is doing V-bots. First grade is doing dash and dot, second grade dash and dots, third grade dash and dot, fourth grade and fifth grade scratch. Middle school right now, we're working on dat and dosh in the meantime while we get the Vex robots. So everything's up and running.
We ordered the Vex robots from the grant, and they were supposed to be delivered in November, but they.
ETA,
I don't have it right now. I can get it up.
and that would be 7th and 8th.
Six, seven.
Middle school. So right now, what I'm doing for middle school is just I'm doing the same project that I did on with third grade, the maze project. So what they're doing is basically with the sheet of paper drawing a maze, and after that, they'll start programming the robot. Do first 2 weeks, we'll do a trial and error, fix their code, make adjustments. I basically explain to them that, if in case your robot passes the line, it's like points deductive, like kind of like in a competitive way. Like if you were in a competitive, tournament, basically like the structures and stuff like that. First and second, working with the dash is just teaching them how to do code with that program. So when they move to third grade, we'll start doing project-based, same thing, maze projects and other items. And Scratch is just teaching them how to use code. So once they move to middle school, they'll be working with Vex, which is the same thing, kind of like programming, coding the robot and building.
You have any questions? I kind of jumped ahead. Real estate advisory panel update. Walker is not available. Summary is, we are still pursuing the site that we talked about in the past. We were hoping to get a vote from SDUSD to help us to finalize that offer. There have been some changes that have happened over the last week or so, not showstoppers yet, just more nuances. So we're now pivoting, working with SDUSD, still targeting the same site, but coming up with a different approach because of the way that the deal might need to be structured. So I can get a little bit more into it later. But the punchline is that we are still pursuing it. We still have a lot of enthusiasm from SDUSD, but there now are just more nuances to how the deals work. Not anything environmental or associated with the site itself, just more the appraisal process and how they're going to evaluate it. I know that it sounds like a lot of gray legalese. It went from, man, this is another gut punch to, okay, no, this is still an opportunity. We just need to be creative about how we're going to approach it. Same token, I'll continue to beat the drum. If anybody has any leads, any ideas, we're always looking for contingency options, and we've gotten to the goal line, man, so many times before. So we know there's going to be adversity, even with a deal that everybody seems to like. So if there's other stuff out there, see things, if there's any listings, we have friends that are agents, send them our way. We've got $40 million+ and we are dying to spend. And with interest rates going up, people are going to want cash. So if they're out there, we will pursue it.
Zach, I kind of slowed my role of checking out. Should I still be on that? Because I have been. Okay,
Yeah,
I'll reignite that fire then, because I kind of
So-
let it died out while I was waiting, because I knew some. I think I was, for some reason, I thought Walker said we'd know something on the 16th of this month, so I was kind of let
we were
things die
supposed to.
until then, so I'll.
We were really hoping that we'd be able to tell you guys something a little bit more definitive tonight, and now it's looking like that's gonna hopefully happen in January. There's a chance it slides to February, but we're working through it.
Okay, I'll start up my circuit with my browser.
Yeah, I think as many options as we have, the better.
Are there prior buildings or sites that we should think about revisiting just for changing the market?
Good point. Unfortunately, even though I say we've gotten to the goal line, there have only been 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And the ones that we weren't able to do either, there was a regulatory issue or they got sold, yeah.
Okay.
I would love to do this location, so that might be another option. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I talked to Mr. Salentino about that conversation that we had about this building. And last time I spoke with him, he said he was gonna start to push hard, so we'll see if that is possible.
Yep, I mean, I think, and if we can clear all requirements and hurdles, we welcome all sites, and we got $40+ million to make something happen.
And I think there were additional conversations still about Paramount, so there's still movement elsewhere.
Yep. Board discussion. Don't have much to add, other than we're listening, we're doing our best to make changes, and we're, trying to be considerate of what we've heard, while also respecting our staff and community and building them up. And I think people are starting to really find their stride, and I hope everybody's feeling that. Or, we had a lot of staff turnover, people that are, now 3 months in, and they're starting to get their group. So hopefully that's reflected in the experiences, and the facility upgrades will only help. All right, principal report, or no, I'm sorry, parent foundation report. Is Mr. Talby gonna take over for good now?
That's a her problem, not a me problem.
We have anybody from the foundation here? All right, so we will pass on that this month. There is a note. I don't know if it was. All right, principal report.
You better if that note wasn't sent to you. Yes, so the first thing I have on here, just our building repairs. Just wanted to share some other things that have been going on around the building. Like I said earlier, we cleaned the windows. We've had all the carpets steam cleaned, and we're looking to possibly do that again in the near future. We have had some we just recently found out we have a beehive in the wall, so we're having that beehive removed. We'll have that removed tomorrow, or next week when the kids aren't here. It's on the exterior wall, on the outside on, what's this, Bandini, but it's kind of on the corner where the back is. So they have to cut into the wall and remove the entire hive and then repatch the wall. So that happens next week as well. I want to give a big shout out to Mr. Sotelo, as we finally kind of got him out of the sub role, because that's all where I wanted him, and kind of activated him. He is the one that discovered said beehive, and so he's been working with that. He worked with the windows to get them. We've identified 89 ceiling tiles, drop tiles, I think is what they're called, that need to be replaced. We have made that purchase. We're going to try to, we're buying 100. We're going to replace the 89, have 11 on stock for moving forward. The goal is to have that done before we return from break. Also, that one is a question mark of whether we'll get that done. I would also invite the board to take some time tonight just to walk through the garage, as that has been, we're trying to get it cleaned up and make it a lot more accessible for parking. There's double parking places in there that we could be utilizing that we're not. So we're really working in the facility in a lot of different areas right now. And Mr. Sotelo has been a lifesaver, because he's able to do a lot of that stuff and allow me to do some of the stuff that I wasn't able to do because I was dealing with so much facilities. So that's been good. In addition to that, we have the restroom remodels that, is the big ticket item, if you will. Already got the floor tiled. They have been in here on weekends doing a little bit of work. I've seen some of the piping that they've cut out to replace, and it was a very good decision to remodel the bathrooms. So that will be, we are on time. In fact, we're working a little bit ahead of schedule according to Mario, because he was able to get in and get some stuff done over the weekends. We will get out of school at noon on Friday with students. They will be in here before 4 o'clock working on the bathrooms, is the discussion we've had. So it is going to be that quick turnaround. The last time I talked to Mario, there was only one question mark in the whole thing, and that was the I'm not sure what you call them. He told me the name of it, but the partitions between the toilets. But he was confident it was going to be worked out. He just hadn't found the guy who would work over that break that does that. And he said if it comes down to us doing it, we can do it. but we would like to have a professional do it so we don't mess it up kind of thing. So that was the only question mark that existed. Any questions on the building repairs and stuff we're doing throughout the building? Oh, actually, one more update. Before I do question, I apologize. One more update. I think the board knew, over, some of you knew, I know for sure, over Thanksgiving break, they did more trench digging. After the big storm that we just recently had, the ground settled and it is not level whatsoever now after that. So I had the leasing company out immediately the day that it was storming, had them there, they've taken pictures, they have committed to replacing it. That is also supposed to happen over break, but I haven't got confirmation from them that it will be happening.
Replacing the turf, replacing.
Leveling it, getting like they're not gonna replace the turf right now, but they're going to pull the turf back up, resettle it, get it flat again and lay it. Which is currently a big issue out there. When it first happened, I was worried about like ankles and things like that. It's not, now that it's settled a little bit, it's not as bad as I thought it was gonna be, but there are some almost like sinkholes when you step in, and it feels like you're like in quicksand, like kind of just sinking into the mud. And there's a couple places against the fence that have also done that same thing. So I have contacted them. They'll be here just in case you guys get questions on that. Wanted to give you that update too, and that is supposed to be fixed on there.
Are they doing any sort of fill and recompaction?
Yes,
Okay.
that is what I talked to the our property manager, her name is Taylor Reed. She came out, took pictures. When I spoke with her, she said the big question was trying to decide if it was the people who did the trench digging that need to come out and kind of do some leveling, or if she needed to bring back the people who did the actual leveling. Because they actually did a great job. It was the most level it had been since their original trench dig. As soon as that rain came, it sunk into all those holes and way down deep that I'm sure they hadn't gotten. And so it's gonna have to be.
It does feel like there's a fair amount of damage to that turf.
I feel very much the same way.
Are we,
And they are liable for that. I have that in writing from them. That's not an issue.
Are they having to dig it up again? Besides the leveling, or are they done with their trenching?
They're done with their trenching as far as any information that I have.
Okay, so then we probably should start that conversation about replacing the turf.
Yeah, and I was waiting until we were done with trench digging before
Right.
I started to do that. But now that this has happened, I feel like we even have a bigger leg to stand on replacing the whole thing.
Yeah.
So they're still gonna love us because we're gonna have a couple really big things that they're gonna have to pay for. Yep. Questions on repairs before I move forward? You had a quick hand up. Did I answer it? Yeah, sorry, turf was, as soon as I saw the hand, I think it triggered my brain, to be honest. Next thing I have here on is a marketing update. I passed these out or have these passed out. This is from Mr. Markham, our marketer. He just wanted to kind of give a concept of what the plan is going to be and what that rollout's going to be like. So just kind of the introduction, the goal is to get our enrollment numbers up for the 2023 year as we look at, as we look at where we're at in the year. Next year needs to be our focus on enrollment at this point. Doesn't mean we're stopping what we're doing now, but it needs to be the focus of the marketing scheme. The metrics that they'll use is traffic and acquisition of like how many people are landing on our website. QR code scans, form completions, email signups, and then the big one that we're looking for, which is student enrollment. Marketing activities, out-of-home marketing, which will be direct mailers and the printed vinyl banners that have been requested. And then social media, paid social posts, and then the regular organic posts that we're pumping out and getting a lot of traction through TikTok right now. So our goal is to kind of center on both those social media outlets. Mike gave a page about himself, so he could kind of explain what he's done in the past. This is more for you guys than anything else. He and I went to college together. He's my daughter's godfather, so I know a lot about him. I know him well. He did give us a customer persona, the people that we're targeting. So he sees the people that we're targeting as millennials, people who are really looking for a place educationally for their child. Safety is a big concern that is of that age group, of that age matter, and what we can do to appease that. And then kind of, yeah.
If you have a chance to talk to him, can you find out has that page specifically been updated since COVID? I'm curious.
The safety page?
I'm more curious about it because some of the wording on here, I'm like, wonder if that's still the case.
Yeah, I will talk to him. Now, I will tell you that, he and I had we were doing non-work things and he asked if we could talk shop for a minute. And he shared with me that he felt like, one of our biggest problems with enrollment from a marketing standpoint was how difficult it was to get to the enrollment page. That the URL, just oldtownacademy.org alone, is way more than what most people want to type into a browser. So one of his big things is to make the website more easily accessible for enrollment, and he wants to take that piece on too, which we'll get into. So one thing that he points out is that, and he shared this with me too, he felt like found more about our school on external websites that they were ranking us or judging us or giving information about it than we got on our own website. And as a marketer, he wants to rule the narrative. He wants to control that. So that's something that he wants to look at as well. Direct mailing, that'll come in the form of the I just went blank. The mailers that go out, and you can just kind of run some numbers for us. This is the mailer that, with approval, and I was kind of looking for you guys. It's not something that we're voting on, just more of a, just quick vote in conversation. What you guys thought about this? He sent me 3. I picked this one of the 3 that he sent. One of the reasons I picked it is because some of the pictures that he had picked were of students in masks, and I told him I didn't want the image to go out to everybody with us having students in masks, because I felt like that would be a deterrent for some families coming here thinking that we were still under a mask mandate. Tactics on the outdoor banner, he just kind of outlines, gives an example of what that outdoor banner looks like. As you will see on it, they are QR code based. That QR code does not take them to our website, but directly to our enrollment page. And he said, you got to cut out all the steps in between because it's losing people along the way. So that was a big thing that he felt.
Is that to the school mint enrollment or our link?
To our enrollment page, it goes directly to our enrollment page and he feels like that needs to be the bulk of where this is what our school's about. This is what you're going to get when you're here. So it's all kind of on one landing spot, and they can click that button immediately and be into it. So that's some stuff that we're discussing. And so as his next steps, update the landing page, which is the enrollment page. So it will serve the campaign as the landing spot. Also wants to work with the Google Analytics to understand what our traffic looks like and how he can uptake that. And then the next step is also launching the campaign. So after marketing materials are approved, which he and I talked about, I just wanted to put this in front of you guys before I approved everything. They will be printed and shipped January, February. Ahead of that, the direction of the ED and the school will produce suggestions on what the social media things are going to look like. And I'm going to sit down with Andy and I, since Andy runs some of that stuff, and try to work that as kind of a joint effort. And then he leaves his contact information. Feel free to reach out to him as a school board member. Just identify who you are. He's glad to talk about any of this stuff. He wasn't eager about giving a board report, so he left that on me. But that's okay. So any questions about this and what this campaign is going to look like?
We are all concerned that on this mailer that is sending home. So there's a lot of after-school activities and a lot of extensive after-school enrichment, not about what's going on during school.
So a little bit of that was my feedback too. And so kind of wanted to get your guys' perspective, because from his standpoint, he was very much like, look, I'm all about what you guys are doing in academics, but what you're going to pull people in with is what you're doing outside of academics, is what he felt from what he's researched through marketing. Well, I can roll the dice with either because we're successful with our academics. We were in a school that we weren't successful with the academics. I understand why people go that way.
I think it looks like we're not successful.
I agree. I agree with that. That was some of the feedback I had too.
I think robotics, violin and piano is something that we offer almost every day to our students in most cases. And that's something that needs to be moved to the upper category. That just feels.
Although I agree with you, except for the one question I would have about moving it up, is the upper category, it says Old Town Academy overall grade A. Was that the 4 things that they graded us as an A, or we can put that in, say, highlighting robotics, highlighting those things at the top box?
Gotcha.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to
I do.
claim that some outside group said we have these great programs of these, when they didn't. They just said about those 4 things. I think you're on the right thing. We have to have those on there.
I think saying something like students get music every day. We're the only school in San Diego Unified that has a full-time PE teacher, you know, like there's
Robotics, yeah.
different ways to say it that are maybe not in that box, but this looks like. You know, we're
You feel like we're avoiding something.
It
Like,
looks-
like it
it
looks
looks
like we're
like-
avoiding, and not that we are, but it looks like.
correct, it doesn't highlight our actual operating. I think.
Question, do we still have karate? I don't feel like we.
Actually, yeah, we did just recently brought karate back.
Oh, did we?
It's in this current after school program that they have right now. Alright. That was new though. I think it's called martial arts, to be honest, because I think it's multiple different. They do it here. I think we do it here.
And that's probably important to update the martial
Yeah.
arts students.
Yeah, I think, I think so.
Things like that.
I hadn't thought about that one until this was brought up.
I missed a couple of meetings, but where are we at music? Do we have a new music teacher? Music?
We have the same music teacher we hired in July or August.
Oh.
I did, not, this is off subject, but also relevant to that question. We did just apply for the grant I applied for was, I want to say $23,000 to update all of our instruments, update our music. Also, in that purchase was purchased so we could actually have an orchestra, so we could bring back some of the things that have been promised for years. And so if I get that grant, that should bring in that possibility of bringing some of those things.
I would not have put music up in that purple box.
Say that again.
I said, I would not have put music up in that purple box. I mean, even though,
Well, it's still one of the foundational pieces, and we still have the program, may not, we may want to tweak it, but I think it's still that sound.
yeah, I mean, based on what they're saying.
No, I mean, I think existing versus standard San Diego Unified School, our music program is a little bit, I mean, it is more.
Yeah, it's.
I think that's what we gotta out.
Kids have access to a lot more here than
Correct.
any place else that I'm aware of.
Unless they signed up specifically for band as their elective, but.
Yeah. And I think there's some like arts and music schools, but that's their main focus in those schools. Schools that are non-focused on that, like ours would be focused on academics, rarely are they exposed to music the way they are here. Like, I don't know anybody else that's doing all that.
My other comment here would be. It's controversial, but it's not for the pre-K thing, but I don't know. That's this is our first year doing it. We need to assess at the end of the year.
Agreed.
You know, how it feels, so I wouldn't tout it necessarily, may probably help funnel more people and create more interest, but I don't want to overpromise.
So would you rather that move to K through 8?
I think so.
Okay.
I thought we had, we had to do your pre-K?
Depends on.
We don't actually, we have a way out of that if we choose. It basically, we haven't spent any of the UTK funds that have come in. And if we don't spend them, we can hold them to next year and still spend them if we decide to continue with the program. Or we can hold on to them and just send them back and we can discontinue the service because we're a charter school. In late July, I think, early August, like I want to say 3 weeks before school was starting, the word came out that we didn't have to have said program at our school if we so chose. And the feeling at that time was that we had legacy kids who were in it and we wanted to support them and not banish them. So we moved forward with the program. I would not say the program has been a success thus far. I wouldn't say it's been a failure either. It's just somewhere in the middle right now.
Yeah, it's been a new challenge, but to figure out, been a strain on kindergarten. And we haven't spent the dollars in the year mark, we have to do some capital improvements tied to that. So if we hold off on doing that, we have the flexibility to assess, who knows, maybe in the second half of the year, we hit our stride and figure it out and become a real selling point for us, but we now still have the flexibility to decide if we don't do that. Even while the wait list is.
So-
It's got more.
Right. And I think to echo Kate, I think the robotics, the music, right, the stuff that we're doing that's different, we have to highlight that.
Yep, I'm with you. I just kind of made some highlights and I'll have a conversation with you tonight. Well, probably not tonight, actually. So I'll see you.
Is our best picture really the one with the fire truck?
So here, the answer is.
Sorry to nitpick, but I'm looking at that and it's sort of, it's a mixed message.
So he was sent what we had stock pictures of that had occurred through the building. And when we went through the pictures, I'm gonna say it is one of the better pictures. Doesn't mean we can't go reshoot and find a different, better picture. But again, a lot of the pictures that we had on hand were kids in masks. Doing this, and I wanted to avoid that specifically, because I get a lot of questions about, is there a mask mandate here? I'm not sure why that's publicly out, but there's publicly out there that Old Town Academy has a mask mandate, which is weird, because you guys didn't have one.
Yeah.
that-
So does this include Alexa's dad, Samson, has taken a bunch of photos over the years, Shan's husband, and he's got some awesome photos, if you'd be willing to give them to us, I assume he probably would, I mean, professional photographer.
Yeah, that'd be great. The stuff we have came from Miss Miller's, picture taking for like newsletters.
Okay, we got tons of resources.
Yeah.
for that. You
So-
know, and also-
Yeah, feel free to send me stuff and I'll get it to him. He and I have a shared folder where I dump all the pictures and stuff into, so you can pull them.
So should we suggest to our classmates that, like, if you guys have like a good picture?
Sure, if you guys got great pictures, send them to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I get emails from students all the time, just put some pictures in there. Okay, any questions on marketing then? I'll have a conversation with him, make some adjustments, and then I'll send some things out. when I get,
So what's the? What is it? What are we looking, how many eyeballs are we looking? You can see, like, what is reach, what's conversion rate?
So when we send out mailers, the goal is to send a mailer out to every household that has a child in it in San Diego County. In one campaign to push out. Then what his suggestion is, we monitor what that looks like. That's he wants to watch the QR code, he wants to watch the website uptake, he wants to see what that did.
Does it make sense to do that stages and like adjust conversion adjustments?
I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not a marketer, maybe. That's more of a question for him. I would, my gut would say yes, but I don't, marketing is not my area, so.
I think there's probably also a timeline that we need to adhere to, right, because we have to get it before our enrollment.
The goal is to get it out as quickly as we can initially, because on our timeline that he's presented, it's gonna be right around the time that we're kicking into the new enrollment for next year, which is like end of January. So this stuff is supposed to go out into January, early February, so it should match according to that. So we definitely want to get the stuff out then, but it's monitoring it and then figuring out how to adjust moving forward.
I think so the steps are update landing page and then doing the campaign. The campaign is mostly direct mail and social media.
Mhm.
Or-
Yes, both.
And then what's our budget for this?
So we do have a marketing budget. His fee, which I think you guys saw, yeah, which was approved. My understanding, because I don't know a lot about what people marketers charge necessarily, but it seemed reasonable to everybody here is a good thing. So I have some money that came from some places that I can also tap into this, because we can call it improvement if we need to. So I think we're good in the budget place as far as I can.
Well, I was just saying, what is the conversion rate? Like is there something that's targeting?
So I've given him a number that I don't know is achievable. What I want is for us to enter day one with an enrollment of 270. That is the goal to start in August, because that's our max number. And then always when you have enrollment, there's this attrition that slides. As soon as week one ends, you can usually count to have 8 or 10 kids never show up, and you can remove them from your system.
Yeah.
So really that goal is more like 260, but the enrollment piece is to look at 270.
Right, I mean, like, there's a way to track, like, do that, you can track the same payment to these.
Yes, and he has he's put that in here, right?
What is that target? Out of those countries, do we say like 30 to 30 people or what?
To uptake, yeah, we'll probably he and I talked numbers early on. Probably, I feel like the number was 50. He felt like we would be able to, because I think I think he told me it was like 1% of what you send out, and there's, we're looking at like 5,000 mailers going out to meet the families that would be within our area or something like that. It's like 1% of that. Well,
That's a phenomenally high number, if you'd like.
okay, well, that's what we talked about, which I think we equated to like 50.
Daniel, you're saying for marketing or for opening letters? What are you talking about?
To find out if you like comparable bottom product,
Got
right? To be able to go from 5,000 mailers to 50 students would be incredible.
Right.
I could have him
And I
present in January if you guys want to ask him these questions when he's pushing this stuff forward. I could have him come in present.
Would that time frame, would that be okay? Should we
I say, I don't know, does that, I don't wanna stop the, look, this is, and I think when
I
we,
think we move forward and he just comes and presents the answers to your guys' questions on what we're.
yeah, cause I think as we talked about it, when we were discussing the budget purposes and how much we were spending, we said something along the lines of. 1 or 2 kids more than pays for the budget we
Yep.
got, and if we got 10 kids out of it, we're all gonna high five.
Mhm.
Right, 10 or 12 kids, so to me, anything over that is gravy, right? And if you got 25, right, that's a classroom full,
Yep.
almost a classroom full of kids, that's huge.
And then what does our social media look like? Where is it on our pages? Is it on, I don't know.
So the social media would go through our like Instagram, TikTok pages, that will actually have like ads in them as well. So like what our kids are drawing attention to and the stuff that they're doing, we will start to slide in ads of what our school's doing too. So that the people who've started to follow us, the people who started to like jump on our page for different reasons will also see these ads on enrollment and what we're doing here at the school. So the initial, and this was something I sat with in my interview and talked about, the initial plan was to get a following, and the kids have more than exceeded my expectation in that. So now it is to bring in the marketing to catch those people who are watching our stuff and also see like what we've got going on in a different way. And again, that's why he puts in there that the kind of the group that we're targeting is that millennial group that has kids that are looking for different things, and he's targeting them because they are social media hungry individuals. Just remind me, what was it called by in 2000 for his work, but that doesn't include the mailers and stuff that we'll pay for.
So we discussed this one now, like full budget campaign, so we get out.
Yeah, I think the number was 7, with the belief that 2 kids, because 2 kids are gonna pay for the entire campaign if we get 2 kids. Other questions? for marketing? Okay. Last thing, it's written here as STEM interview update, but just wanted to update on the STEM teachers scenario. So currently, we have the job posted on the regular, normal teacher network searches. We also, I've reached out to a recruiting company that I met with this morning. They're sent me a contract on what it would look like as a teacher fee. That teacher fee is 15% of the teacher's annual salary. So that's a big chunk, but I have put that type, I did request that type of money in that grant. So we should easily be able to match that under the grant for the one teacher that we're looking for. In addition to that, I've reached out to multiple colleges. In fact, every college in Southern California that's in this program that San Diego State hooked me up with a job posting program called Handshake. And it is a job post that goes to multiple colleges. You have access from the entire country, but I was able to center my search for a person in Southern California. So almost every Southern California college from Los Angeles to San Diego now has our job post for teachers that are coming and looking for jobs. In addition to that, it matches me to prospective employees that have recently graduated and are looking for the same thing that I posted. And with that, I've already reached out to a couple different candidates whose resumes were looked pretty good. As of the day today, I had not gotten any responses, but that was something that was kind of got moving today as far as the college connection. We do, however, we are going to move from Mr. Gonzalez, who's currently Mr. Watts's sub. He will actually be our long-term sub starting in January if we have not found the person. So that is a person who knows the kids, who's worked with the kids, and will be working in that scenario. The kids, most of them have really great things to say about Mr. Gonzalez, so it's positive. So he's going to be our long-term sub option if we can't find someone. And as I've said many times, it's going to be really difficult to find the unicorn we're looking for in December. It's going to be really hard in July, but it's going to be hard in December. So I do have a contingency plan with a person that I think really knows our big building well and can really fill into that role. So he and I have been working on what that looks like, just in case that is what the direction that.
And that's even with sort of expanding the scope to be more science oriented.
you need less science oriented, because we talked about going to multi-subject. Do you need more science? oriented?
Well, I guess we're talking about both, right?
Yeah.
One knows either science is a core or multi.
Correct, and that searches out in multitude of ways. And we actually had an interview set up, and they were, I emailed them in the morning of that morning. Mr. Ham was there, emailed, said person, they responded really quickly, within 20 minutes, and they were a no call, no show, and they've not responded to anything since, so, that's where we're at in the interview process.
Strange time. So, thank you. It sounds like you're exploring a lot of different networks. I reached out to Mr. C as well. Information gets all this, any possible avenues. So. Thank
Yeah,
you.
any direction I think I might find the person we're looking for, I am a taxi right now, no questions asked. But as I've said, and I've reached out to some of my former mentors and asked, why is it so difficult to find this position? And their reasoning has been that STEM teacher really isn't a thing. You're a science teacher, or you're a technology teacher, or you're, a math teacher, engineering teacher, but you're not a STEM teacher. So that's kind of a deterrent, but because that is actually the position that we hold, I can't falsify the name and say we're looking for a science teacher, and when they come in and say, it's really a STEM position. We can't do it that way. So I have to keep presenting it one way, but I keep putting in there the information of like what we're seeking to try to like, if I can get them to that second line, we're trying to capture it. So we're working on it, I promise.
All right, we are now moving into our new business consent action. I'm sorry, anything else for Devin? Any questions for Devin? Before we jump? Okay, now we will jump into the new business consent action items. First item we have here is the approval of the meeting minutes. Got a bunch to get through here. Revised September board meeting minutes.
The revision is.
What was the revision?
So the revision is basically that there was not an agenda item slash, I guess,
Summarization.
summary of what was discussed in closed. So we have to give a broad strokes unless there's very specific things that we have to list on that, according to some of the Brown Act stuff that was not listed in some previous templates that we were working with. So this is the broad strokes. This is taken from more of the original board meeting minutes from the previous presidents, et cetera. So was approved prior. So that's been added to September, October, November, and the special. That's why we're revising the September, October. No,
Got it. And
that makes sense.
yeah, it's pretty overarching.
Correct.
May I make really one side note? I noticed this in the September the revised September board meeting. My name is spelled with an O, not an I. It's not a big deal, but it's in there a lot. Devin, and just a heads up on future.
I will correct.
It's not a big deal. Like we don't need to like not vote on it for that. But moving forward, I'd love to have it spelled correctly.
Great, people spelling name with the.
That's probably.
Well, provisionally say that I will check your spelling to make sure that's not correct. That's not the case.
Okay, well, if you caveat, well, are we prepared to, Chris, do you have a comment, or are you making a motion?
No, I would comment on Wednesday, September 21st. I marked this out, but I was here. And I know that because that was my anniversary.
I know he was here on his anniversary too, because we were all mad that he was here. We found that out. Sure.
That's why we're revising them now. Need to revise it.
Revised. That will also be corrected.
Okay, so do we approve with those noted revisions?
We don't need to change that.
I will revise it.
Then I have a motion to approve September meeting minutes. I will motion. Chris second, okay. Let's see, we got it right here. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? I don't think anybody else. Any abstentions? No. All right, carries unanimously. We're gonna move on to October. Prepared to make a motion? I'll motion.
I'll second.
Excellent. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. knowing that we have nobody else to abstain and or vote to the negative, that carries unanimously. November board meeting minutes. We had a chance to review.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Nice.
I'll second.
Oh, well, switcheroo. Well done. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Right.
But I am
Carried
abstaining.
unanimously.
Why are you
You
abstaining?
made the motion and you're stating that.
Wait, what? Okay,
Okay,
that doesn't carry unanimously. We have one abstention.
Yes.
You can mark him as absent for this meeting.
It was abstaining and it is marked properly that I was out.
All right,
get some things.
and then the November special board meeting minutes should be pretty brief.
I'll make the motion to approve. And I'll second.
Excellent. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Right. That one carries unanimously.
Okay.
Moving down the list here, approval of the check register.
Yeah.
We have two check registers, right?
Do we have two check registers?
We should have, I only see one,
Um,
right, because we punted last month's. I don't think we were provided it again.
Yeah, I just have October's in here. I don't know, maybe he's got more info than.
Or wait, is that the last one that we punted last time?
I think that is the one.
we should have October and
Yeah,
November.
So we don't have any, but this is the one we punted, this is the one, we're okay, yeah,
Can you remind us why did we punt on it?
because they weren't distributed.
They were.
at the time.
Yeah, Natalie wasn't here to get.
So we'll do, so next time, and maybe Devin, you can remind
We need
Natalie.
November and
we'll need
December.
November and December for the January meeting. I can move to approve the October check registry. I will second.
Got a factory over here. Wow. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. Approval of the 2022-23 revised budget. Which we looked at earlier, and just to make sure we're all on the same page, that is the one that's not included in our packet, but the supplemental that was handed out. Look, there are other things we're pursuing to try to improve upon this number. There's other levers we can potentially pull. But I think for Josh's explanation, this is just for next middle.
For now it isn't, and I think, with Chris and Josh, I know there's some additional funds that right of the grants, the stuff that's paying for the bathrooms, things like that, that we need to spend, and that will cover rent or other facilities things as well. So there's more money there for this calendar year or this school year and next too, which will help ease some of that burden.
Yeah, and there's some other grants that we're looking at that
Right.
hopefully in the future will help as well.
And there's some state funding, things that I have for different years that I have to spend, but some are all the way out to 2028 that we can tap into now. And like kind of wipe our budget if we really have to. So we've got options as we move forward.
All right. Does anybody want to make a motion?
I really want to, but I feel like it's like not.
No, I don't think, I think I've motioned out.
I think it's not, I don't think it's proper for me to do that since I'm.
I would make a motion.
Right,
I'll second.
All right.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is for the 2022.
I'm gonna give Daniel the second on that. 'Cause he said it quietly.
Nice,
Yeah.
good.
I'm gonna put it up to the vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Carries unanimously. First interim report. That was also included on.
That was all part of
that first one. Okay, I'm kind of conflating these two things here.
The first.
Report's going to the
You got it.
school district, right?
We have to do D.
Yeah.
We did, C was,
We have no choice. All right, anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the first interim report.
I'm gonna second that. Or it's helping. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, no abstentions. And finally, the approval of the independent financial audit, no news is good news. The opinion was favorable. David was very thorough. Look forward to working with him and with that 3-year contract. So I don't think there's much to cover with, maybe some questions, but.
Also, Kate, that was the David, that was the Dave.
Exactly, I figured that out. I'll motion to approve.
Awesome.
Nice. Yeah, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Right, over, okay. Motion carries unanimously. That is the end of open session. Thank you very much for joining us. Nona, Al, thank you guys.
Learn more every time.
Good.
Good.
All right.
That's what it's about.
Also,
I have a pretty good bit of like marketing thing they did a couple years ago. It just has like information that I'll shoot you.
Coming out of closed session, there's nothing to report. Thank you for joining us. Have a great evening.
Do you want your materials, Michael?
Okay. Coming out of closed session, there's nothing to report. Thank you for joining us. Have a good evening.